usual offer here. If I have I have restaurant experience, so it's not like, I'm not speaking from, out of turn or anything. Because I use this in the military too. Like this was basically I took my translation of what the military had and made it so that non-full-on military people could do it too. So all right, now with this wasn't in the military because obviously with applicants we have a ton of them here, but this is what we're gonna be getting into today. Let me make sure my laser is doing its thing. There it is. So with this, I think I have your guys' email, so I'll make sure I'll send you guys a copy of this here. But when we're talking about, we're getting applicant funnels here. Now, the difference here that when I coach this versus the way that people normally think about their hiring cycle is they don't think of an actual funnel with their folks, the way salespeople do. So what it is, I actually took sales principles after talking and spending a lot of time with salespeople. I took those principles, the first principles actually, and brought them over to hiring so that we could look at our applicant pool in the exact same way you're looking at sales goes. And we just kind of make some changes in there, because what I've discovered, and I think we're not going to speak out of turn here, the vast majority of employers cast a wide net and just kind of hope to see what they catch. Yeah. And that's not what we want to do. Okay. And there's a fundamental reason why, and we'll get right into that. So this is going to be just a framework of best practices. Every one of my clients, they make adjustments to it as they use it. I do nothing that's a static model. There's no best way to do anything. However, there are some axioms that, stand up over time. In a business, neat and tidy should be the standard. You can define what neat and tidy means, but at the end of the day, you can look at something and say, is that neat and tidy or not, right? Same thing here, there'll be some certain axioms in here in the way we're looking at it. But at the end of the day, you'll understand the principle behind it, and then we just go through some best practices here. So again, with this, the first time that you try it, the second time you try it, probably the fourth time you try it, it's not gonna be quite right. But with everything that I coach my teams and with these meetings, these courses, I say, you have a feedback mechanism in place. Either you get a whole bunch of applicants still, or you get nobody applies, right? You're gonna know kind of you say you get an average amount, but it's not a narrow mix that you'd be looking for. It's still kind of a mixture of stuff. Take whatever information you can from that and then refine the process, okay? And as we go through this, you'll see what I mean. But it will take, now with the donut shops that I ran for the ownership group, it took us 9 months, so basically a full season of implementing, refining to the point where all of a sudden we just started getting the applicants that we needed to get. Like, okay, these are just right on target. And like I said, we dropped our turnover rate down to, we're at 17% in quick serve. Like we hired them for the season, they stayed for the season. We had very few people that were, the normal churn. Like we got the college kids, but we had them on part-time. So we kind of identify where we want. Very few people did we end up having to let go. What now? But because of the previous churn, which was 137%, you burn through the folks, but you learn, but we got a lot of practice in. And once it caught traction, boom, we started hiring amazing people. But it was that for like the same position, like it was across the board. Across the board. It was a lot of my direct. This was working with my HR person. We were hand in hand. I pretty much put in front of Jen. I was like, "Yo, I need this kind of to get to." And she asked a few questions. She went after it, and she took the process to a completely different level. She took the axioms here and really made it solid. So let's get into this here. So with this is not I'm not being like hyperbolic in any way, shape, or form. Employers hate trying to find people, and applicants hate applying. They do. It sucks across the board. Nobody wants to do it. So, like I said, you're casting a wide net, hoping to get the right people to apply. That's not what you're supposed to do in your hiring system. So everything, like I said, cast a wide net and see what we get. I want that gone. If you two are going to be my two apostles out in spreading the good word from here, okay? That is fundamentally wrong. Funnels are meant, again, the best applicant funnels are designed to keep the wrong people out, right? Think about what is more dangerous to your organization. not hiring the right person or hiring the wrong person and putting them in with your team? Because so
both of them have a negative effect with my group that I already have.
So let me, this has been my experience with this, and this is where, why I would say there's looking at a different spot there. Your team would rather work at 80% manpower, but 100% of those folks are all in on the culture and productivity and got it, versus being fully staffed with 20% or 10% being those folks that are in a job mismatch or the wrong culture fit because of the ripples that it has and causes for them downstream. Your folks can adjust to make it work here. This they're having to work with and have somebody basically pulling them back. And that's
Very good.
okay. And that's what I mean. So this is markedly worse than not hiring someone. Getting that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
We actually just experienced this with my work. We had a new service center manager, and I think they were just trying to fill that role. And she was here maybe, I don't know, it was like 90 to 120 days, like that frame. And we here are like a core group of people that all work together and know what we do. And it was worth having someone that didn't know what they were doing leading versus us that could do this just fine on our own with a little bit of guide from leadership.
And that's exactly where the ownership and HR, they need operations to tell them, don't just get me a body. This is what it is. Now with this though, when you define, and we're going to talk about the way that we want you to, the way the system's set up, it's actually signaling to the people that you want to hire that this is a place that, I think I want to go check this out. And you'll see why that is. Anybody have a number on that?
I would say.
Hi there. You just grab a seat anywhere up front here. Second one. Yeah. Hey, come on up. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. No worries.
For my experience, I would say about 25%.
Okay, 25%.
And I'm not knowledgeable in that one.
So it's normally about 3 to 5% for the applicants that you get. Oh, by the way, I am recording this, so just FYI, if you have an issue, I can turn this off if you have an issue with that or not. Okay, there's an off chance that you end up on camera, so I like to let everybody just kind of know. No, you look great, yeah. But with this, so here's the deal. You should know this. Your HR folks, they should know that one. They should have an applicant, basically, here's the number of applicants that you get, and I was able to hire this and to fill this. So you should know how many applicants are coming into the funnel, period. That should be a metric that's reported.
And I do that. I keep all my applications in a separate folder, and
so just collate that data and then figure out what that looks like, because again, it's an important data point to let you know, because if you're getting 200 applications when you're putting out a job ad, your job ad is not written correctly. I'll just let you know it's not, because you should not be getting this wide net of unskilled people, especially where you're at. It should be a narrower band. Specifically, if you got if you're looking for somebody who's working front of house versus back of house, that there's a certain type of folks that would just like being front of house versus, you know the drill. So that's what I mean. So you should take a look at it. That's the feedback loop that you want to have. That's the first one. So you should know what percentage. So when we're talking about applicant funnels, oh, by the way, so just to catch you up, okay, the best known, where we started at here was that the application, hiring system is in this country is just broken, period. No one disagrees with me on that statement. Everybody hates applying and everybody hates putting job ads out there. One of the fundamental issues that we have though is people are trying to find the right people. And that's not what you want to do when it comes to an applicant funnel. You want to keep the wrong people out. That's the way you design it, to protect your team. Okay, and so it's very specific. Now with this funnel, and the reason I said I brought sales best practices over to this, when you look at sales, it's a constant filter of, is this a right fit? 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 All the way down, where you're just not trying to get sales through the funnel. You want to make sure that what you can deliver is of value for those individuals. And that doesn't change here. You want to make sure that what you're asking them is going to be of value, i.e., can they actually do the work that is on the job ad so they can provide for their families? Because again, this is very important too. The average cost in this country for, basically a bad hire is around $5,000. In this area, it's close to $7,500 because of the time and energy and everything it takes to get them through the system. About $7,500 in this area. Yeah, it was, yeah, it is. And that's more so, why do we want to make sure that we don't have a bad, like I said, just keep adding on to those things, just change your mindset. But what I'm going to recommend here is at every single spot along this funnel, you are going to work in a filter. It's simply just a filter to keep people, to help signal to people, hey, this isn't for you, so they hopefully will self-select and help themselves out of the funnel. There you go. That's what we want to have happen, right? Arrow out, wherever that happens to hit. Exactly. Self-select is far better. I would much have somebody make it down to filter 3 and they let me know I'm pulling I'm like pulling. Sweet. I'd rather know now than before, than after, right? All right. So with this is where again, what are the attributes that will make an employee unsuccessful in this job? That is what you want to start your thoughts with. It's very easy. Just look at all the people you fired. They're going to let you know, right? Or the people that quit because they rage quitted out there. People are allowed to leave. It's fine, but so where they got to the point where they stormed off, what was their attributes? What issues were they having there? Now, there may be some stuff organizational that you need to look at, and that's fine. Those are things there. But mostly it's a job mismatch. And that's where I want you to think when people are unsuccessful in the job they were doing, it's not because they are terrible people. They were in a job mismatch. It could just be for that time in their life. It could just be their personality. It could be their skill set. It is what it is. Because we have people who thrive in the exact same work that let you know that, okay, it's the person, they were in the wrong seat. That's all that is. And that happens all the time. Well, it's the main reason that people end up quitting or getting fired. They're just in the wrong spot. Same thing, but you start with this one, unsuccessful, then you move to successful. Okay? It's the other way around. We want this thing. No. What is going to make them fail? Start there, then get to this piece. And this is the way we're going to break this down. So again, when it comes to the funnel here, we're starting with whatever the skill is, and it's a broad brush. Oh, by the way, I am actually, again, just as a reminder, I'm going to email these slides to you, so I'll make sure I have your email address. I'm going to hit you guys up one more time before we go, just to be clear on that. But this is where you're looking at. So it's skill and then broad for culture, right? Broad to the right culture. The next one down, again, the same thing. Here's the skill set, kind of broad, right? But it's going to narrow it down because the skills are going to help, right? And also those filters. The next one is the person. And this is, excuse my language here, but this is the asshole check. Are they going to be, and again, it happens sometimes. You run into those folks. I have you in my family. That's what it is. And the last one is demonstrate the skill. Actually having a show up and show me that you can do a base level. We're not talking about rocket surgery or anything like that. We just want base level stuff. And we're going to talk through all those. But this is where, when you're looking at this is, hey, we got this job here. You don't want to apply here. Okay, well, let me look at this. Wait, yeah, you're right. I probably don't. Or, hey, I might have something for this. And then we set in the filters after that. Okay. So we start with the job listing, right? Plain and simple. Okay. What I go back to is, when is the last time you guys looked at your job descriptions? You're in my last course, I asked that question a lot. When's the last time? Job descriptions are meant to be dynamic. The work that you started, the work that I did 6 months ago is not the same as I'm doing right now. There's been some changes across here. Now, does it mean that we need to do a full-scale adjustment to the job description? No. But it's also important just to keep that in mind. Again, if you add you decide to add a breakfast line to whatever you're doing there, there's changes that are going to have to be in the job description because X, Y, and Z, right? So this like I said, we were looking at this quarterly, and this is because we have the quarterly reviews that we talked about before. And we don't do annual reviews with my clients that I work with, we do quarterly. And part of that is you're just double checking the job descriptions to make sure everything's aligning, because you're looking at their productivity and their culture fit. So it's feedback loop is in place already for this.
So question on
Yeah.
that. Is it, with, the job listing,
Mhm.
is it better to put too much information on there and overwhelm the applicants? Or is it better to be completely candid to attract the right candidate?
Can you restate that one more time? I just want to make sure I got that.
No, that's okay. So is it better to put, like, say I'm putting my position out there?
Yep.
And have like all the details of every single, like the job.
We'll get into that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get it. No, that's really good, because you've got some where they throw the, okay. By the way, if someone's asking me, it's an AI mount for the camera. It follows me. It knows where I'm at. Okay, anyway, sorry. So with this, we'll get into that, because when the job that I eventually took with the donut place, I ran a chain of gourmet donut shops before. So when they brought me in, there was 3 pages of duties for an area training manager. That's what got me interested, saying, "Oh my goodness, these guys need some help. Let me go see what I can do." But it signaled to me like I was qualified for that. My degree is in occupational education, right? Workplace training stuff. I know how to train board members all the way down to frontline folks. So I was like, oh, they're signaling to me they need help just off of this job ad, without realizing they were doing it. So but with this, we're going to talk about this here. But when it gets to this, we'll come back to that. What you want to have in your job ad, and the way that it's set up, or so your job description, is the most important thing is first, and then down, basically, and it's the thing that they are going to be rated on when you're talking to them. I have West Shore Bank was in here. I brought up an example for them that they had. The first thing that they talk about on there is that, you basically be, you want to be cross-selling, basically. They're constantly looking to offer new products to anybody that's coming in. But the title is teller, or whatever they called it. So the question I asked them is like, so do the people know that coming in here they're in sales? And do you train them in sales? And again, it was one of the looks like, what are you talking about? And I showed them, like, this says salesperson. Oh, okay, got it. So one of those things there. So, all right. Yeah. No, it'll be. I'm assuming this is going to be for they've got property around that they get taken care of. So right off the bat, they're signaling, hey, we've got those things, which that's not what I want. Man, is to let them know something of the fun. These are examples here that I've used, but it's simply just in the job ad itself. Prior to submitting your application, please note the ideal candidate will have formatted the resume in accordance with the listed directions. This is one of the reasons why people hate applying to everybody. There's no standard for resumes. There's no standards on how to deliver things. So the advice I give to businesses, when people, again, HR says, yeah, we want to see their creativity, kind of what they come with, and kind of see how their minds work and stuff, right? So let's fast forward 4 months and now working with us. Do you think operations wants to see their creativity and the way they come up with stuff and their challenge? No, they want to see that they do things exactly as we tell them to do, right? So let's start with that. Here's a couple examples, and we'll get into that. Here's a couple examples of how to write the resume, present your information. Just format it this way. And here's the thing, if it's too much for an individual to reformat their resume in line with what you're asking them to do to employ them, would you like to find out that they have an issue reformatting stuff before or after you hire them? Okay, see what I'm saying? So it's just a little filter. It's tiny. It's just this little hurdle they got to get over. You're going to get rid of 20% of folks right off the bat. You're going to find it like, oh, I don't want to do that, right? Rather than them just hitting apply so they can, again, this isn't a knock on folks, but a lot of folks, they go and do applications because they have to be able to show they've applied to jobs for their unemployment.
I run into that a lot.
Yeah, and that's what that is. So if you add this other spot here to it, yes, you're still going to get them, but it's easy. You bring it up and you see that it's not formatted correctly. What do? Destack. You don't even need to look at it. You're like, nope, done. Okay. And other reasons on here. Again, we'll be prepared to sit for a 30 to 45-minute phone interview, skill or broad, and we'll be able to discuss the how and why behind the decision and actions identified in the resume. And you remember how we got this set up here? Remember, we got broad, and skill broad, kind of those spots there. This is going to be a broad filter, and these are skill-based filters and broad. But I kind of see that piece. That makes sense? So it's just in the job ad itself says, hey, before you even go to apply to this thing, understand you got to do this. Most of them go, nope, I don't want to be involved in that. But if they do, and they just, basically go right through it and get through. So that's the job listing. Now you've got the actual job application, right? So that's just the job listing. That's your first filter, trying to get them to continue scrolling, or you're going to highlight to people, after they look at everything, I can reformat that. That's no problem. I can talk for longer about this stuff that I've done in this work. Same thing here. I can talk all day about why I did these things. The people that are who are naturally a good fit for that position, or go, I can do all these things. I can now move on to the next spot. They don't mind. The people that are just going through and just because it's where I want to bring that spot up. So you asked about listing a whole bunch of stuff. Every time you add another line to a job app, basically a job ad, that's another 5% of the population that might be able to convince themselves they can do the rest of the job. When you're as an applicant going through this, you're looking at it saying, I can, I can do that, or maybe I can, or I think I can probably do that stuff. If they know that they're going to actually have to have a conversation about it and talk about it, it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, let's say that they did QuickBooks before. It's been a few years. So you're going to ask them about, hey, let's talk about your time with QuickBooks. It gives them an opportunity, if they really think they're going to be a good fit for the job, they go research it. Go take a couple YouTube, videos just to get caught up on the new QuickBooks or whatever. So you can just speak to it. You're giving them an opportunity to prepare, but also putting these one of the little filters in place, letting them know work's coming. So the next filter is going to be our job application. So again, this is aligned with job ad. Again, so these are some examples here where we're talking about. Remember we said in the job ad itself, we're going to have this piece. So we're telling them the ideal candidate resume will include, and it's going to be aligned with the job ad. Go right from top to bottom, most important, boom, 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 down the line. Examples of how they drove revenue growth consistent. These are some higher level ones, but you can also say customer service, working in kitchens, whatever happens to be. You can find a way to make adjustments to it. Examples of how they built relationships with current and potential clients. This one's from hotel management, right, for hospitality. They have a big, the hotel management, they need to be talking to everybody about coming in and having their little meetings and conferences in there so they can fill out their space that way. So they need to know this area. So again, ideal candidate resume will include this. And the ideal candidate's resume will have their work history, accomplishments, format as follows. This is the preferred action impact results. And what I say is just use real examples of your work. Just change the numbers if you're worried about them seeing what the numbers are for you. Just change them to whatever. But use your real stuff. So again, process transactions, responded to customer concerns, utilizing reflective listening skills, and resolve client concerns for 50+ guests daily. There's action, again, this is preferred, the action, what the impact and what the results were. Increased online viewers, and this one. So this one again is for front of house hospitality staff, right? You don't need to use all these wonderful little unpack your adjective stuff here also, but make it work. And then increased online viewers by 43% in 2 months through website optimization, SEO best practices from your marketing and your marketing and IT folks. Then we need to show what they did and how they got it. Now the folks that you work with that don't have this in, if they realize they've got to put this in here, and you've already told them they're going to have to talk about it, you're going to filter even more people out because they're not going to actually know their numbers, be able to put something in here. Now for frontline staff and the younger folks like that, just something simple. If they were involved in a club at school or whatever, I'd have some of that stuff. What your normal folks you're pulling from, successful folks are. Oh, that's right. You're allowed to have conversations. So
This is like really hard for me, like in a sense of like changing the mindset. I'm like used to like, okay, how many people can I draw just to
Yep.
have like like applicants?
Mhm.
And the idea of trying to change it to
quality applicants, and that's where that has been. I did HR for a while, and I'm extremely hard on HR folks because their feedback system, their feedback loop, and what they were measured on has been incorrect, which has led to poor practices and a terrible hiring system across the board. Because you get looked at, well, how many applicants did we get in? That's the wrong question. How many qualified applicants did we get in compared to the number of applicants that we got in?
and like even with employer conversations that I have, like that's one of the questions I ask. Okay, how many applicants did you receive, or how many applications did you receive? And I typically go to, okay, great. The more that you receive, the better. And
Yep, that's not you got to quantify it.
yeah,
So yeah, data without quantification is simply counting. We always want to have qualifier and quantify every way we can. Qualify it. Okay. So yeah, when you're going to have people that are going to be very hard pressed in HR to make this switch because they've been reporting numbers up here for a while, and they're going to start dropping down here. But we want them down here. Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right. So add the statement to your application. Reminder: prior to submitting your application, please note the ideal candidate will have, and you're reminding them again. Just a little, hey, you're going to format it. And then guess what? We're going to talk. Now, you don't always have to do phone interviews. I'm a big fan of them, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I recommend find a way to do phone interviews when you can. Even for front of house, we had ours down to about 15 minutes for my anybody who's working up front, because you get their voice, you get their energy, you can kind of see if they're okay. But with that though, they're also going to discuss the how and why behind the decision and action. You're just letting them know again, hey, you got to format this thing this way. We're going to talk about what you put in the thing. So just be clear, this is coming. So before they click, they have to think that through. Guess what that does? Another percentage just walks away because they don't actually want to be asked about that. Any questions on that?
Me personally, I normally do about a 15-minute before I meet them in person.
Yep.
Not only, sometimes they're from Wellston. I don't want them to drive.
That's exactly,
And
yes,
I can actually get a good feel of how somebody is just over the phone.
absolutely.
Little keywords, and that just comes with experience.
Yeah, and the thing with that too, and this is where I put this piece out here, is that it's professional courtesy. No, you're fine. You're fine. You're going to have a conversation with that person, right? But also, if you're going to pull them in for an interview in person, chances are good they have to take time off from work that they're losing money, or they have to use a PTO for that. Hey, if I can get them on the phone and narrow that filter down further, let's do that. Yes, ma'am. What about same thing? You can do Zoom also. Yeah, either way. I mean, I use phone, but yeah, Zoom.
I was just thinking like phone. I'm thinking like a physical phone.
Well, for a lot of folks, yeah, because when you ask, especially for frontline, they're going to be looking on their phone.
Yeah.
And I've just never, they might be in their car because they're on break, right, or whatever, their lunch.
Sure.
It's just more like, it's more comfortable that way. Yeah, I mean, for the professional services, even then, I'm more of a just let's get them on the phone thing and then go for. But I have folks use Zoom. They like Zoom. They're a remote organization, so they do that a lot. So, all right. So next spot here is going to be the phone interview itself. So as you see, just continuing down this funnel, more and more filters here. So we just put that other filter in place that some folks are going to self-select. And you're also going to look at the same thing, like this is A stack, B stack, narrow it down and then go from there. So the phone interview standard, and so the phrase I use with everything is it's called standard. So we have a cleaning standard, right? We have in operations, this is what, for us, this is the cleaning standard for the fryers. We had different standards for how you restock, just use word standard. So that's what that means. And the standard is, it's going to be open-ended questions designed to highlight candidate fit. Open-ended questions. If you are not good at open-ended questions, you may not have them. There's Ask the Right Questions is the book that I recommend for folks. It's got 23 different categories of the type of questions you'll be working with people. And it gives you that opportunity to say, okay, if I'm having trouble, let's say, again, motivation, go right to motivation. They're going to tell you the type of question, open-ended questions to ask them. So again, it's Ask the Right Questions. It's a little book. It's only about yay big or so. Actually, I just had something on Instagram and I just talked about it yesterday. So again, 30, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the level. You know, if you're just trying to, again, get fit. But with this, it's going to be based on 80% of the questions, 80-20 mix, Pareto's principle in here, just 80 on the candidate's resume and 20% on specific business questions. But you want to talk to them about, okay, you put this stuff out there. What did you mean by this? Okay, so just go through that and ask those questions. That's why I'm saying for frontline staff, you're down in 15 minutes. Because you only have a few things necessarily on those. But you, for higher level, it's going to be more because if they're in management, you're going to have those spots. That's right. I'll re-hit this again for you. So we've moved on into the phone interview. Right? So we're now, we've got someone's clicked the button, right? And then we've gone through and now, so we've gotten this list of them and we're still going to do our A/B stack. Like even within the folks that come, you know, there's still going to be an A/B stack. And sorry, we got to cut these folks out. Next is going to be your phone interview. This is the phone interview standard because we told them as they were submitting the job application that we are going to have a phone interview or whatever that looks like for you. Open-ended questions. I just gave the recommendation. It's called Ask the Right Questions is the name of the book. It's 23 categories of questions. And the book's it's tiny. It's like $10. You can get it on Amazon. It's actually on my Instagram reel. There's a link there. Also on my LinkedIn, I put it out there today too. So if you guys. So, but open-ended questions designed to highlight candidate fit. 30 to 45 minutes. Again, you vary depending on the level where you want that to be. But it's 80% of the questions are on the candidate's resume. You're simply asking them about what they put down on the virtual paper and sent to you. You're just asking them. Because you know if those are half made up, you're going to tell immediately. Because when you ask an open-ended question about a specific event and someone that they've done, either they're going to be able to fill in the blanks or not, right? They're not going to be able to filibuster you. You'll be able to tell. And the other spot is, again, 20% on business-specific questions. Now, what that means are, in this situation, have you ever been in a situation where client did X, Y, and Z, or a customer did X, Y, and Z, or, hey, when this occurs, what do you think is something, you know, how comfortable would you be with this? You know, just those type of questions that are whatever your industry happens to be. All right, so with this, phone interview standard ends with information about the in-person interview. You're gonna let them know what's coming next, just like we've done at every single step along the way. Hey, this has been cool. This is what's coming if you're selected. Oh, and now that it gives them an opportunity to say, you know what, after this, if I really want to be here or not. And they self-select, especially if they know the following is occurring. 1 to 1.5 hour, again, depends on again, please know this is just, I always worry about, that's why I keep bringing this up. This is just as examples. Make adjustments to fit where you're at. 1 to 1.5 hour panel interview for 2 more folks in there. That's what you want. Candidate will be expected to demonstrate knowledge through a series of tests. We're going to test you. You said you could do this? Here, so in the trades.
A lot of self-selecting right there.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, you said you can weld. Cool. Ta-da. Put these 2 pieces of metal together. Let's see what your bead looks like. Oh, crap. Whatever that. Same thing. Service, that's where I mentioned here. Service system, familiarity, design, client issue handling. So if they are, QuickBooks, like I mentioned, they say they've worked in QuickBooks. Cool. QuickBooks has an entire little play area that you can go. Have them do some inputs. Make some invoices. Do some billing. Basically, whatever you want to have on there. Retail, counting cash. I know it still exists in this society. It's amazing. But same thing. inventory, client issue handling. Just put some tests in front of them, get creative with it. That's what we had. We absolutely had them count cash. Inventory for sure. We went through and said, okay, go ahead and get an inventory count for the fund. We give them the sheet that literally, because one of the axioms that we have that in places I've worked at is everything has a place and every place has a name, right? And it's labeled. It's really easy. So we give them the inventory sheet and say, could you go count all the coffee? They go, okay. They go, hey, this matches up, and they count. Here you go. Great work. It seems silly to do that, but inventory management, when you have somebody's brand new at it, you need that data input to be correct, or else you're going to be throwing off stuff. So it's simple little tests just to see that they can do what they said they could do. And at the executive level, I have, P&L, cash flow, balance sheet questions, client issue handling. I have put anything that was basically assistant general manager and above, I put P&Ls in front of them. That you look at this P&L, and I had them where they were messed up. There was things that were incorrect. And I wanted to say, okay, go tell me what you see by looking at this. Since you said you've managed P&L before. And the blood would slowly drain out of about half of their faces. And I go, oh, it's been a while. That's fine. Take your time. You have questions, I'm here to help. And about half of them could not see the basic error that was there, that anybody who was looking at a P&L, specifically in that type of world where you're in quick serve, there's a couple things you're really concerned about, and they'd miss them. About half of them would.
What was the error?
The error. So one of the errors that I had was going to be on basically the labor rate. The labor rate wasn't calculated correctly, so the percentage was, and it was like double. Like, it was very clear just to say that this was a data input for the number of hours that were in that was causing this percentage. It wasn't matching up. Just simple math, right? The other one had to do when COGS, the cost of goods sold. Same thing. I had it calculating much less than it was actually. And those are the two main pieces there. That when you're looking at control that you have in a quick serve environment, it's on labor hours and it's on your cost of goods. Like those two things. So I just wanted to see if they could spot where one was way higher than it should be and one was way lower than it should be. Although things where it kicked out, so they could kind of talk me through it. But half got it, half didn't. Is what it is.
One of the main things I've always been trained on is businesses that fail. A lot of times it's because of the cost of goods is not managed and labor. Those are the two main factors.
Yep.
For a place not to succeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, because those are your controllables. You can't control people coming in the door. You can't really control what they're going to buy, but you can control the cost that inputs that go into the actual goods itself. That's why inventory is a piece, and the number of people you got staffed. Those are things you can control. Yep. So that's where I'd have those pieces on there. When I got into higher levels and I was making them have to do cash flow statements, that was always fun. Because a lot of folks don't have a lot of experience with cash flow, which is fine. I just wanted people to say, I am not good at this, and I loved hearing that. Like, cool. That way I don't have to unlearn, you don't have to unlearn all the wrong things you were taught somewhere else. I can show you what we're looking for. That's the level of honesty I was looking for, especially in the executive level. There isn't a gradient on whether you're employed there or not. Either you are, it's binary. Either you're contributing or you're out the door. Executive, there should not be a continued conversation to get them better. Once you're at the executive level, you are supposed to be performing, period. Not go somewhere else. Okay, so with that, you see that, so this again, we're letting them know in the phone interview, this is coming. So another group of people say, I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this. And other folks, okay. Now we get to the in-person interview. Again, just like I had before, this is what it's going to look like. Easy peasy. Love it when we do have a small class, though, because we can blaze through stuff. Nice. So normally, again, I get about 1,000 questions. I'm going through this. But you guys have been asking the right questions on this, which is great. So the goal of funnels is keep the wrong people from applying, just like I had at the beginning. That's what this is about. This, we're not going to go over proper interviewing techniques in here. That's not what this is about. We're not, none of those things. What we want you to understand from this is the, first principles. Keep the wrong people out of your business. By wrong, I simply mean, job mismatch. Everybody's wonderful. Everyone's great. Job mismatch from happening. So that is the entire funnel. What questions do you have for me? I'm going to give you guys some time back today versus last time we ran.
I'm just like, I don't know, you can go ahead, Anthony, I don't wanna.
One thing about, you were talking about how, you're interviewing and you're having them count cash and doing this or that. Now in the kitchen, I can't have any, I mean, I would love to, but have them be like, hey, cook this. But before I hire them, they cannot be in the kitchen,
Correct.
for insurance
Yeah.
reasons and that. So what I do, it might be wrong, what I do is I have them explain, okay, we have walleye tacos. That's a saute area. How would you saute them?
Absolutely.
And that way I get a little information how much, and then something you said earlier, it's like something a lot is if you don't know how to do something, just tell me.
Correct.
Because a lot of times when somebody don't know, that means I don't have to retrain.
That's exactly.
I don't have to break your bad habits that you learned somewhere else.
100%.
I'm open to somebody that's never cooked before. I'm like, I will train you. I'll teach you how to cook.
Yep.
I'm very open about that. I'm like, don't say I know how to do it. So I've had that people who do that where they're like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that. Then when I hire them and they get down to it, they have no idea.
Exactly.
They're
So-
saying the right. They're saying what I want to hear to get the job.
Yep.
Then when it comes time to perform, it's like, oh wait, you said you could cook this, but you don't even know how to boil water.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, in for us, when we were like saying in our kitchen, our production area folks that we had, we were mainly concerned on the lifting. And again, I actually preferred folks that didn't have any restaurant experience. Just like, give me, but we had folks that had it. That's where it shifted because the tests that I had were based off of what they said they could do. So I would have an inventory. Like that's when I always went back to. Just, can you go count those things? What's your spatial awareness, be able to handle those things? So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Find a way to ask those questions and have them work through
Don't
that.
get me wrong, there's times I just actually hired somebody that has kitchen experience and it's easier on me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know how to make this. You know
Yep.
what the temperature for a medium burger is. And then I pull on that, I'm like, you know how to do this, but I can show you so much more. And that gets them excited. And like I said, sometimes I get those experienced ones and sometimes I get ones that just are not experienced, which isn't all bad.
No, but that's the other piece too, though. So when, again, I know you have a question, but when they have folks, so we had people in service, obviously, and they had food service experience, but if they were serve safe, I happen to be the guy who did testing. So we had a quick little 10 question thing. They just go through and answer simple questions. Oh, you're food safe? No problem. Could you just answer these questions for us? Thanks. Down the line, get it back to us. And, we just, had an idea where they were at. So how about you? As far as this, like.
Yeah, I said it earlier, it's like a different mindset. It's like, I'm so used to it like, in my field of work, like working with employers and like, oh, all that patience, like I said earlier. I like how this is also like, okay, this is a step, this is the next step. I've worked like here as a career service specialist where I did like the people that were walking in looking for work. And so it's interesting to see like how many of those people would have actually applied to these jobs if this would have been the way. And some of them were just trying to collect unemployment.
Yep.
And
Which is that's something that they can't help but to do.
yeah.
So I understand that. Yeah, I get it.
But I'm just like interested. I like wish I could be back in that position just for a day, just to see. Okay, all these customers, like, would they be actually applying for jobs? Like, if there were job postings specifically specified like that.
Yeah, and it goes back to one of the fundamental pieces that when I'm talking with employers, when I'm talking with HR, same thing in operations. We don't want the fog the mirror test. That's not what we want. We're not looking just to see that they're alive and function. Like, because that's unfair to your team. Your job is to protect the folks that are currently employed with you. So keep that in mind, and that's where we're saying that's what all this should be structured as. How do we protect the culture and the operations within this organization? Let's put some small little, they're tiny hurdles. We're not asking the world, just these, but it's little hurdles are big filters, is what I found. And you put these in place with this understanding, as many of these that you can, and there's restrictions, like Indeed has certain things that unfortunately you've got to work with. If you're posting to their system, they don't allow for links outside anymore. Like, you got to apply within Indeed. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be asked for, you still ask them to do their resume within the job stuff there as well that they have to attach. So there's things that you can still do. But with this, find a way, the best of your ability. It seems like you've got a few. If there's ways that you can augment it and just add a couple little pieces here, just again, so at the end of the day, we protect the team, but also just out of professional courtesy for whoever might be applying. We start by letting them know this is what it's like to work here. We're going to ask you to do things and we expect you to follow these simple little hurdles. It's going to be more when you get here, but let's start with these couple little ones and see how it goes. Rather than, again, let's get creativity, see how they are. No, that's not fair to somebody who's trying to provide for themselves or their family. They should just know, what do I need to do to get in with your company? Just tell me from the beginning. So with that, I say if you're not following me on these things, please do. If you guys have any other questions, if not, no worries. We can go ahead and close up here and give you guys a couple of bit of time of your day back. So
One thing that problem I ran into just recently was I try to give everybody a chance. They applied, this certain person had a previous drug problem. And I've hired hundreds of people in my career. I've been cooking for 36 years. So I've seen them all come and go. And I try to give them a chance.